like always, when we get to top of climb, as it's not a compulsory thing, but just to have a bit of what we call the situational awareness. So just basically be aware of what's around you, and you know, the airports and all, you know, the state of the aircraft. It's a fairly vague concept, you know, situational awareness, but basically just to be aware of your surroundings. You'd look at the engine out page if you had an engine failure. At the moment it shows hey, thank you very much for the follow, K4 Bell 123. Welcome on board. I hope you're enjoying the stream. I invite you to stay along if you can for the whole flight. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, so we look at the engine out speed 254 and the cruise, well, the level at least it gives us if we need to start drift down. So at the moment it's 249, so we'll yeah, if we have to go down, we know we can go down to almost 25,000 feet, and 254 knots would be the speed. So once again, hey Jack Lemmy99, thank you very much for the follow, appreciate it. Welcome on board. So yeah, 254 knots, so we'll kind of put the speed around here on the primary flight display. So we have about 30 knots to lose. So we're not gonna fall off the sky, even if one engine quits. Let's say the left engine quits, the right engine is gonna try to compensate initially, so it's gonna go all the way to maximum power, and the speed is not gonna really decrease that quickly, and then it gives us time to basically do all the drills and stuff to shut down the engine if it's damaged or something. Otherwise, maybe initially start the drift down, and then if the engine is not damaged, then maybe try to restart it. We're not just going to accept that one engine sometimes can fail, but it's just kind of flame out. So if it's just a flame out, then we'll initially start, you know, descending very, very slowly. But then we can try to restart the engine if possible. But restarting the engine is a bit of a complex thing, because you kind of need to contact you know, the company and the engineering side of things, and ask them if they have any more information, because all the engine and aircraft parameters are constantly sent by data link back to the company, and they've got more information than you have in the flight deck. So just to consult with the, you know, engineering to see if they've got any more information, they've got more parameters, just to find out basically why the aircraft, well, why the engine failed. Because if you try to restart it, then it might, you know, make things worse, if you see what I mean. So if it's just a normal flame out, and I mean, it's rare for the engines to flame out like this. If the engine fails, even if it's not damaged, if it's just like a normal kind of flame out, it's quite rare. So that's why you would kind of, you know, consult with the engineering to see if there's something a little bit untoward. Paynex Studio, the 787. Yeah, it's a lovely aircraft. Yeah, I really like it. I think it's a really nice aircraft. We are supposed to be kind of dual qualified. If you've got, you know, your aircraft qualification on 777, you're supposed to be also qualified on the 787. For me, it looks a little bit different. The overhead panel is slightly different. Actually, I bought a book recently on the 787 just out of curiosity, and yeah, the overhead, it's the same kind of layout. If you want, you know, you've got your kind of ADIRU flight computers thing there, the electrical, but the exact number of buttons are a bit different. You get your hydraulics as well, your fuel. On the fuel, I think there's only one crossfeed switch here. It's not forward and aft like on the 777. I think the air conditioning as well is a little bit different. This will be kind of similar, you know, the lights here, and you know, all these switches there for the inside lights and all that stuff. So that will be fairly similar, but some of the systems are a little bit different. I think there's no air pumps. The Hey, thank you very much for the follow, Phoenix Studio. Yeah, I think on the 787 there's no air demand pumps in the center hydraulic system. I think it's just electric pumps, and actually the hydraulic system is seems to be much more effective. It's got a higher pressure system, so it's quite good. It's a really nice aircraft, very light. The composite material makes it very light. I was surprised to hear it's about maximum takeoff weight of about maybe 200 tons or something, and very fast. Decimal 85 is the kind of normal cruise speed, whereas on 777s maybe decimal 83, decimal 84 maximum, and yeah, it's the cabin altitude as well doesn't climb as high as the 777. So most of the time, from what I understand, on the 787 it's maybe around 5,000 feet or 4,000 feet, something like that. At the moment here, and I think it's fairly well simulated, we are at 35,000 feet, as you can see, and if we go on the air synoptic again, the cabin altitude is 5,400 feet, which is kind of what I'm used to see in the aircraft. So it's fairly realistic. You can see the differential pressure though is brought to the maximum, so it's trying to keep the cabin altitude as low as it can, but it does what it can, yeah, but it's still climbing up to almost 5,500 feet. Whereas maybe on the 787 in the same conditions, I think the differential pressure can be a little bit greater than on the 777, so I can keep the cabin altitude a touch lower. And I understand as well there's a bit of humidity going on in the cabin. There's some sort of humidity. What's the word? Creator or maker in the cabin. So the air that is pumped in the cabin is humidified, which is really nice. This make the ram air turbine. Oh, the ram air turbine is the switch is up here. There's a guard. So whenever there's a guard on the switches up on the overhead panel, it means that it's kind of a critical item, and you've got to be careful. The first guard you have here in the electrical panel is for the drive disconnect switches, so you wouldn't want really to disconnect the drive in normal conditions, so that's why you know, all the critical switches, they are covered. And yeah, the ram air turbine, basically it's when everything is kind of failed, you know, when you don't really have any more electrics. Well, both engines have quit, and yeah, you need a bit of backup for your electrics and hydraulics. So it's really a backup thing in kind of really dire situations. It's really your last So you don't really want to play with it too much if you can. But yeah, it will provide some electrics and some hydraulics to kind of feed the main systems in case of a total loss of electrics and also engine power. So it's really an emergency thing, really. If the sorry about the view shift. If the ram air turbine is extended, I think then it stays extended. I don't think you can retract it. Yeah, once it's extended, it's extended, and basically, you know what it's like. It's a little turbine. It's a little bit like a little prop, and it just like spins in the wind and creates a little bit of electricity and provides a little bit of hydraulic pressure. That's it. It's really to make the aircraft as flyable as possible. But it's, yeah, as I said, it's a last resort kind of emergency system. That's why there's a guard on the switch in the overhead panel, is to try to kind of avoid having the by mistake pressing the switch there. So as you can see, as I said, you've got the drive disconnect switches there, which are guarded. The passenger oxygen as well, which is guarded, because it's easy to go up there and press the button, and then it's the rubber jungle in the cabin. The ram air turbine, the fuel jettison. The fuel jettison is a kind of two-step process. You need to arm the system first, and then press the left or right nozzle switches there to start jettisoning the fuel. You can actually, the checklist says you start by arming the system and then go on the left and right nozzle. But what you can do as well is press these two first and then arm the system, and you'll still jettison. The engine EEC mode as well, it's protected with the guard there, because if you go into the alternate mode, then you can kind of overboost the engines. You no longer have the protection on the overboost of the engine, so you have to be careful. And the cargo fire, also the discharge switch is also guarded, just in case you don't want to discharge the halon and all the extinguishing agents in the cargo hold if you don't have to. So. Yeah. The fuel jettison. What the fuel jettison does is basically to another word for jettison the fuel is to dump the fuel. So basically, what it does is open the jettison nozzle valves, and then let's have a look. I tried to zoom on the wing. Here we are. So basically, you've got 3 fuel tanks on the aircraft. One in the left wing, one in the kind of under the belly of the aircraft there, and the kind of center tank, and then one tank in the right wing here, the right main tank. And so what the jettison does is that opens there's a valve here. It opens the valve, and you can see, I'm not sure if it's clear enough. I'll try to maybe to zoom a little bit more. There's a little nozzle here, a kind of little tube, and what it does is it opens the valve, and then the fuel starts coming out of the wing and is thrown out of the aircraft, is kind of dumped out of the aircraft. And basically what it does is that by getting rid of the fuel, the aircraft becomes lighter, and then once you reach an overall lighter weight for the aircraft, you can then get into below your maximum landing weight. I mean, as you know, it's on the 777. You can fly for 14, 15, 16 hours. So obviously, if you take off and you've got a major problem and you need to come back to the airport of departure, you're gonna be, your aircraft total weight is gonna be maybe 340 tons or something. You're gonna have 120 tons of fuel, and your maximum landing weight is 251 tons. So you need to, by getting rid of the fuel, and in that instance you would have a lot of fuel to get rid of. You would have almost 80 tons of fuel to get rid of. But yeah, it just makes things a little bit better for the landing. Dumping the fuel is really only in an emergency, really. So by the word emergency is not like whole hope is lost and it's a dire situation, but no, basically kind of any non-normal situations. So for example, you take off and you can't retract the flaps, or you can't retract the gear or something. Obviously, if you're supposed to fly for like even only 8 hours, if you have the flaps and or the gear which don't retract, you're not going to be able to fly all the way to your destination. If the flaps, for example, don't retract, you can only go up to 20,000 feet, and obviously with the flaps out and flying at 20,000 feet, you're not going to make it all the way to your destination. So then you have to kind of consider what your options are, either to come back to your departure airport, or otherwise you might continue towards your destination, but then stop somewhere en route because you're not gonna have all the fuel to get to your destination. And then obviously it depends on the company. If they can get technical support further down the route, maybe you can continue. Otherwise, if they decide that well, there's not really any options on the route, then you will come back to the departure airport, which normally is your base. Yeah, if you're very heavy, then maybe they will tell you, yeah, jettison the fuel. You kind of need to ask for for their advice on the fuel. But if you're very heavy, I think it's at least try to bring the weight down a little bit. But normally you would try to land below the maximum landing weight, and therefore dump the fuel. You would only really come back with the fuel and being like largely overweight only if like you're in fire or something, or the engines, one of the engines is really damaged or something. How do you change the altitude and speed waypoint in the FMC? Yeah, we can have a look at that. Oh, the altitude is changing up and down. It's maybe a bit of turbulence. Seatbelt sign on.
Seatbelt warning lights selected on.
The altitude shouldn't go up and down, although the speed is there's a little notches of anyway. So the speed, what we're gonna do is that we'll go to departure arrival. We'll set the arrival for Istanbul. I'll go for ILS-05 at course transition, and it's NSU 1 Alpha. So we'll set the arrival. We can do that already, it's no problem. Yeah, because on the 777 there's a little trick on the 737. You can just put like an altitude or just a speed, and the FMC accepts it. But here, what you've got to do is put like both a speed and an altitude. So, for example, these are some of the waypoints on the arrival into Istanbul. So, for example, on the BA 798 there, if you want to set, I don't know, speed 230 knots and 8,000 feet, then I go 230 slash 8,000 and set it in the corresponding line there on the right hand side, and then execute. If you just try to put an altitude on its own, it's gonna work, I think. Yeah, it does. So I'm not gonna execute now. I erase that. But if you want to put only a speed and then put the slash, because you always need to put the slash anyway, even on the 737, it's not gonna take it. So for speed entries like this on the arrival, I need to put the speed and then also an altitude. So we'll go, I don't know, 8,000 or above with the A there, and now it's gonna take the speed. Do you see what I mean? So basically, to enter a speed, you also need to enter an altitude. So the altitude, you can make it just kind of a more general number. You look at your descent profile, your altitudes, and just choose something like that, you know, 8,000 or above. Or if you wanted to put like an altitude here, you would put it shows 9573, you would put 9,000 or above, so that it covers, you know, higher altitude. So I'll delete this. Does it make sense? Is that what you're looking for? Oh, you get invalid if you put, let's say, for example, 230 and 8,000 or above, something like that. No, that's on vectors. Because that's not normal. If you do this on a normal waypoint, you shouldn't get any invalid entry messages. You saw it gave us a valid entry message if you try to enter the speed and the altitude on the vector point, because vectors is just, you know, it's not a specific waypoint. It's just an indication for the computer to just draw a straight line from the previous waypoint, so it doesn't really consider this as a waypoint. And if you try to put it on vectors, then it will give you an invalid entry. It does give you also sometimes invalid entry on I think on the intercept point here would give you invalid entry. We can try to do it 230 and I don't know, 1,000 or above. For the intercept it does take it. I'm surprised because normally it doesn't. But yeah, some of these kind of conditional points. P Minas, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome on board. Dark Berlin 100. I'm gonna send you again the command. I'll keep quiet on the company. But yeah, roughly that's what you need to do. Whereas on the 737, I'm not so familiar with the Airbus, but you can just put the speed slash, enter it, and it's gonna, you know, reduce the speed accordingly. But actually, the I find the 737 FMC a little bit more advanced, above all on the 737 NG, and on all the new generation 737. It's a little bit more advanced, I think, because you can do things also like here, for example, you would be able to go I don't know, 230 knots or below, and then I don't know, 8,000 feet or above. So you try to command the speed below 230 knots, but then if the computer has already reduced the speed, then you know that that 230 knots kind of or below kind of takes it into account. But this one, it doesn't let you do it. You see it valid entry. What's quite cool sometimes is to be able to, for example, you put if you want to cross a point between two levels, is to do 8,000 or below with the B, and then 4,000 or above. So if you want to cross, I don't know, the 798 point here, below 8,000 feet but above 4,000 feet, you pull it like this, and you can see it takes it, and the computer will try to calculate the descent profile so that you cross that waypoint below 8,000 feet but above 4,000. All little tricks like this. It's Stuttgart down here, Nuremberg. Some of the airports we shouldn't really have on this. That's Friedrichshafen, I believe, November Yankee, and Echo Delta Juliet Alpha is Memmingen. These are like way too small for the 777 to go and land. Friedrichshafen maybe a push, but Memmingen is a tiny airport. It's 30, as far as I know, is a 30-meter runway wide airport, so you would definitely not land a 777. So what generally happens as well with your company, with the company aircraft, I'm sure it's the same for other operators, because the basically the navigation database there would only give you customized airports. So only the airports your company kind of allows you to fly into. So all these small airports there, or military airports, they wouldn't show on the navigation display here. It's kind of customized. The whole navigation database is customized for your company and for the airports you wish to use, and the ones you wish to discount. So a lot of the displays and autopilot settings, and are kind of customizable. So they are like customized for the specific airlines. As I pointed out in a recent stream, this, for example, I've never seen this, and we don't have that on our 777s. It's I think it's the angle of attack indicator or something, but I've never seen that on the real aircraft. And I think it's also on the PMDG 777-NGX. Some of the models have this as well. I mean, I've never seen it on the 737 either. If we move on to this, for example, here the track or the top of the navigation display, On this one is referred to the track. Some other airlines have heading, so once again it's kind of, you know, depends on the airline itself. Some airlines as well in the cruise, the CRZ there is the thrust mode. If you go to init ref the thrust limit, so you see that the FMC at the moment limits the thrust. You know, it's you can see on the thrust limit page here. The cruise the thrust limit is based on a cruise setting. The cruise setting is 96.8% N1, so we've got a bit of, you know, margin there for full power. But some airlines got it set on climb, for example. So if you select climb, you'll see you get a little bit more N1 available. You can go up to 100.5. So even though you're in the cruise, for example, if you've got a bit of turbulence or there's a bit of wind shear and the speed kind of bleeds off, then the auto throttle will be able to give us more thrust. So you can see climb is 100.5, and if you go back to cruise, it's only 96. So if the speed was to dramatically drop, then the auto thrust system would have more thrust to give us. So for this flight, we'll keep it on cruise. It doesn't really, whatever option is on this, I'll keep. So here in the simulator, of course, you can you've got all the setup options, and you can play around with the FMC there. All the options are changeable. In the aircraft, this is not there. It's all done kind of centrally, probably through the electronics and stuff like that. You don't have the options here in the FMC. That's just a simulator thing. And the real aircraft, you have none of that. Same thing early on for the doors. You don't have, like, on the center FMC, you don't have like all the options for the doors, the ground connections and all that stuff. That's a pure simulator thing as well. So let's have a little bit of a look on the fuel. So that's something we do on a regular basis. Today I kind of not doing it so well, but if we look at the flight plan, I invite you to type the command flight plan and have a look at the flight plan with me if you wish. I'll type the command. Yeah, and flight plan we have. I'll give you time to kind of open the flight plan if you wish to follow what I'm talking about, unless you're already falling asleep, because I'm boring you with all these stories. But yeah, basically, if we look at the flight plan, you've got the first page there with the kind of general information, and then further down you've got what we call the navigation log. So with all the waypoints and the routes, the distances between the waypoints, the flight level, the wind, the speed, the amount of fuel. And basically we're kind of required to keep track of the fuel consumption. So for example, we are now getting close to we're actually just flying over radar waypoint there, as you can see. So we'll go on the progress page, go to position report, and then you can see at position radar we were there at 33. Okay, that's good. We've got the temperature, the wind, and the fuel at this position was 20.7. And if we try to locate radar on the navigation log there on the flight plan, if you look at towards the right hand side, the fuel quantity there expected is 19.9. So at the moment we've got about 800 kilos extra, so it's good. The fuel consumption is good. We are saving a little bit of fuel, although this fuel figure there on the flight plan doesn't take into account the contingency. So the contingency was actually almost 1.2 tons, so we actually burnt a little bit more fuel than expected, but we still have enough fuel for the flight at this stage, so there's no worries. So this is what we kind of do during the cruise, is kind of keep a tab on the fuel consumption, just to make sure that we're not leaking fuel. We keep also track of the time. The time is another kind of indication as well. Maybe if we see that maybe the fuel consumption is a little bit higher than expected, but the time as well, we are getting, you know, later and later after each kind of checkpoint, or like, you know, waypoints as we go along, then maybe there's you know, there's a relation between the fuel and the time. If we are getting later, that means maybe the winds are a little bit stronger all the way along the route, and therefore that's maybe why we are burning a little bit more fuel. So it's another indication as well of the status of the flight. If this makes sense, I'm sure everybody is kind of, you know, snoring away, say, what is he talking about? I hope I'm not being too technical. You know, I'm trying to kind of talk about what it's like, but I don't want to bore you as well, guys. So if I'm getting too technical, please tell me to stop. So we're gonna fly over Munich down here. Oh, that looks actually like a stadium in Munich down here. Nice. The Alps in the background. There's a little bit, yeah, that's a bit of cloud there, but we can see the Alps as well going into Austria. Very nice. Destination. You see, that's a little bit what the forecast was mentioning. Try to put it against the darker background. Here we are. So weather report for Ataturk, 9:20 Zulu, which was about 23 minutes ago. 220 at 7, so it's going to be runway 23. 9999 is 10 kilometers or more. The wind is varying a little bit there between 180 degrees and 250 degrees. A few clouds at 3,000 feet. 22 degrees, 12 degrees on the dew point, KNH 1025. And there's a remark there, I think they give the winds for all the runways. So to check the weather, like I just did, we kind of keep an eye on what's going on with the weather at destination. But yeah, basically we have kind of two ways to do it. If there's you may have seen on some of the airport charts, Sometimes for the ATIS it says D-ATIS. If you have D-ATIS or like a digital ATIS, with the data link capability of the aircraft, we'll go to the COM, and then we'll go to fly information here. Change the view. Unfortunately here it's not simulated, but you would go to fly information, and then there will be 3 options here on the left hand side. There will be departure clearance, oceanic clearance, and I think it's, what is it called? It's not called, I think it's called airport information. Not sure, can't remember. Anyway, it's there. You will click on that and then enter the airport code, send the request, and then after whatever, how long it takes to get the reply back, you will get on the screen the digital ATIS, which is the same format as the ATIS you can listen to on the radio, with the all the airport information, the weather, a little bit like what we had there, and the runway news and all the information, all the good stuff. And another way for us to get the weather, which is more like a bit like I just did there, where you just get the weather report itself and no more. You go to a company. Company usually is quite a big menu. There's like 3 columns, kind of following the 3 columns up here. So there will be like a huge page opening up with like several options, and there's like weather options. So you would click on that, then it would open another page where there will be like 3 options, 3 boxes for the 3 airports you want to request. So if you just want to request one, you just fill in the first box with the airport code, same thing, and then press down here, there's a send button there. You press on the send button, it sends the request, and then it comes back to you after a few moments. Comes back with just like, you know, the weather report, and sometimes with the forecast as well. But yeah, so that's what we can do without having to ask anybody. So it's quite cool.